For 20 long years, Lady Louise Windsor was treated like the royal nobody was supposed to notice. Quiet, polite, hidden in plain sight. While cameras chased scandals, breakups, betrayals, and heirs, she stayed in the shadows like a name written in tiny print at the bottom of the monarchy's family contract. But now, suddenly everything has changed. And when the palace starts moving in silence, when forgotten names begin resurfacing, when land, money, and future titles start circling one person who was never meant to matter, that is when the real story begins. Why is Lady Louise making headlines now? Why are insiders whispering about private meetings, property transfers, and strategic planning behind locked doors? Why is the girl once dismissed as background royalty now being spoken about like a secret weapon for the next era of the crown? Because sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one everyone is planning around. And what is happening behind palace walls may be far bigger than anyone expected. Louise entered this world already surrounded by drama. Born early in 2003 after a dangerous medical complication, her arrival was not wrapped in fairy tale perfection. It was fear, urgency, and survival. From the very beginning, her story was different. No grand royal rollout, no oversized expectations pushed in public, no constant parade of cameras documenting every breath. She survived the difficult start, and from there, something unusual happened inside a family obsessed with control. Her parents, Prince Edward and Sophie, made a choice that quietly broke tradition. They stepped back. They refused to turn their children into palace performers. That decision looked small at the time. It was not small, it was explosive. Because while other royal children were molded into symbols, Louise was allowed to become a person. She went to school. She built hobbies. She loved horses. She trained in carriage driving. She lived the kind of grounded life that almost no one with royal blood is normally permitted to touch. While others were trapped inside image management, she was learning discipline, privacy, and independence. No nightclub chaos, no staged rebellion, no headline hunting behavior, just silence, just consistency, just a young woman growing stronger while the world ignored her. But the palace never ignores anything. People assume that if cameras are not present, nothing is happening. Wrong. Palaces are places where every move is watched, especially the moves no one else sees. And insiders know something crucial. Being underestimated is one of the most powerful positions in any family built on competition. Louise was not flashy enough to threaten anyone, not loud enough to trigger attacks, not controversial enough to become a target, which meant she could grow without resistance. And now, years later, the results of that quiet strategy are impossible to hide. There was another twist most people missed. As granddaughter of Queen Elizabeth II, Louise had the right to be styled Her Royal Highness and known as Princess Louise. But that title was declined. She remained Lady Louise. Many thought it was symbolic modesty. Maybe it was. Or maybe it was something smarter, freedom. Because titles attract expectations. Titles create obligations. Titles become cages with velvet curtains. Without one, she could move more easily, choose more freely, and avoid the crushing machinery that swallowed so many before her. And while the public shrugged, certain people inside royal circles took notice. One of those names now returning to the whispers is Lord IVAR Mountbatten. Not a front row balcony regular, not a daily tabloid obsession, but someone deeply connected to royal bloodlines and private influence. A man who understood both privilege and distance. He knew how to keep the family name without letting the institution own his life. He knew how to stand near the monarchy without being consumed by it. That kind of knowledge is priceless, especially for someone like Louise. Sources have long suggested that IVAR became a quiet mentor figure in recent years, someone advising on adulthood, identity, independence, inheritance, and the dangerous balancing act of being royal but wanting to remain human. That matters, because mentorship inside elite families is rarely casual. Guidance is strategy. Conversations are positioning. Relationships become future maps. If Lord IVAR was helping shape Louise's next chapter, then someone believed her next chapter would matter. Then came the rumors that changed everything. Behind closed doors, talks reportedly began around property, long-term security, and Louise's future place in the family structure. Not gossip about dresses, not chatter about appearances. Real things, serious things, land, trusts, independence, assets. That is where royal power lives. Not in tiaras, in paperwork, in ownership, in who gets positioned where before the public even realizes a game has begun. And at the center of those whispers sits a name almost no one had heard before. Wren's Nest. Not Buckingham Palace, not Windsor Castle, not some globally famous residence tourists line up to photograph. Wren's Nest. A quieter estate. A private place, the kind of property that doesn't scream wealth because it no longer needs to. Historic land, elegant privacy, useful distance. the kind of home chosen by people who understand that true status rarely announces itself. According to circulating claims, Wren's nest may have been selected as a future foundation for Louise long before the public knew anything. A base of her own, a place not dependent on parents, not dependent on marriage, not dependent on palace favor. If true, that changes the whole narrative, because it suggests she was not being forgotten at all. She was being prepared, quietly, carefully, deliberately. And then another name reportedly entered the room, Prince William. Now the story stops being family gossip and starts looking like strategy, because William is not just another relative. He is the future king. Every association matters. Every private interest means something. If he truly took an interest in Louise's future, then this was never about kindness alone. It was about usefulness, reliability, the shape of the monarchy he wants to inherit and rebuild. What does William reportedly admire most? Not noise, not drama, not fame addiction. He has seen enough of that to last a lifetime. Louise represents the opposite: discreet, educated, disciplined, scandal-free, publicly liked, privately trained to live without attention. In a shrinking monarchy where every remaining figure must justify their place, those traits are gold. So imagine the calculation. A forgotten royal becomes the perfect modern royal. A quiet cousin becomes unexpectedly valuable. A woman raised outside the spotlight becomes ideal for the future spotlight. And while everyone else watched the obvious players, a different piece was moving across the board. If reports are true, private discussions involved how to secure Louise financially before any life changes arrived, before marriage, before new obligations, before public roles became possible, before choices narrowed. And that is where Wren's nest stops sounding like a gift and starts sounding like a message. And this is why silence around her may have been the loudest clue of all. Some people rise through publicity. Others rise because people with real power quietly clear a path. If Louise was truly being given assets, guidance, and future planning while the world looked elsewhere, then the palace may have been running an old game with modern precision. Prepare the dependable one in private. Unveil them only when needed. No drama, no campaign, no announcement until the board is set. There is also symbolism in the name Wren's nest that royal watchers cannot resist. A wren is tiny, overlooked, easy to dismiss, yet impossible to silence once it sings. Sound familiar? The girl no one focused on now becoming central to whispered plans. The royal once considered peripheral now potentially holding a place in the next chapter. Whether the symbolism is real or coincidence hardly matters now. In monarchy stories, perception often becomes power faster than fact. But beneath all speculation sits the most uncomfortable question of all: what does Louise want? Everyone discusses what William needs, what the palace needs, what succession planning needs, what image management needs, what land transfers might mean. Yet almost no one asks the woman at the center whether she wants any of it. Does she want a larger public role? Does she want a lifetime of ribbon-cutting duty and choreographed smiles? Does she want to exchange privacy for relevance? Does she want a home if it comes attached to invisible obligations? Because that is how royal bargains often work. Nothing is ever just a gift. A house can be shelter, but it can also be expectation. Security can become service. Opportunity can become duty. The key to the gate may also be the lock on the door. And Louise, raised more freely than most royals, may understand that better than anyone. Still, the pattern is difficult to ignore. A once overlooked royal grows into adulthood. Trusted relatives reportedly guide her quietly. Property rumors surface. Marriage whispers begin. The future king allegedly takes interest. Analysts start asking where she fits in a reduced monarchy. These are not random sparks. Together, they look like smoke from a fire the public has not fully seen yet. The late queen understood something many never grasped. Monarchy survives less through speeches than through positioning, through patience, through who is encouraged, who is protected, who is placed where years before anyone notices why. If similar instincts are now being used around Lady Louise, then we may be watching a familiar strategy dressed in new clothes. Quiet moves now, visible consequences later. And that is what makes this story so gripping. It is not about one estate. It is not about gossip over a wedding gift. It is not even about whether every rumor is true. It is about what the rumors reveal people are willing to believe, that behind the smiling photos and ceremonial routines, the next shape of the monarchy is already being negotiated in private rooms. And one of the names increasingly attached to that future is the very woman nobody thought would matter. Lady Louise Windsor may remain silent. She may choose privacy. She may reject the spotlight entirely. Or she may step forward when the moment is right and surprise everyone who mistook quietness for weakness. Either way, the palace knows something the public is only beginning to suspect. The overlooked royal is no longer overlooked. So was Wren's nest merely a family gesture, or the first visible sign of a much larger plan already in motion? Because if this story is even half true, then the next royal era may not belong only to the loudest names people keep repeating. It may also belong to the one who waited in silence while everyone else made noise. And if that is the case, the real headlines have not even started yet.